Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
Well, hey, Philly sports fans, you are in the right spot. It is the Wednesday, December 10th, 2025 edition of the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and by Cabs Philly Tailgates. Now, whether you're watching us on Facebook Live, our Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel, or on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, it's great to have you watching. We do appreciate you. I'm Chet, you know that. My partner, Bill Furman, unfortunately, had a little bit of surgery yesterday, so like the Eagles offense, he is nowhere near 100% right now, and we've given him the night off. So rest up and get well soon, Bill Furman. Maybe he's watching, maybe he's not. I don't know. But fear not, I've got it all covered. Eagles, Phillies, and Flyers talk. Penn State, the college football playoffs, a little controversy there. So much sports talk, in fact, that I may not have time for my planned 10-minute segment on the just-announced Golden Globe Awards. I know Bill's going to be disappointed about that. The nominations, they came out the other day. We will stick to sports this evening. And with the help of two fantastic guests, I might say, a bit later on, we will talk with the founder of Phillies Nation, Brian Michael. He is always great to talk to about the Phillies and, the Kyle Schwarber signing, what's ahead, etc. Plus, he's got a new book out about Philadelphia's first pro football team, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. That'll be fun. But up first, he is one of our absolute favorite guests ever. He is a playwright. He's an author. He's been covering the Philly sports scene for more than a half century. And he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame to boot. So that's pretty good. You know him. You'll love him. He's Ray Didinger. So let's welcome him in. Ray Diddy, how are you, man?
I'm good, Chet. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Great to see you. It was great seeing you last week at another edition of the Greatest Moments in Philly Sports. That was a fun night.
It was really a fun night. Glenn Macnow, Joe Conklin, and I have been doing that now for a couple years. I guess this was probably our fourth one of those shows. Yeah. And this time, for the first time, we went over to South Jersey. Glenn and I had never done any of our shows, sports movies or Greatest Moments or any of that stuff in Jersey. We always wanted to try it. So we went to the Scottish Rite Auditorium.
Great place.
Collingswood, which is it. You're right. It is a great place. Beautiful and big. And we went in there, and I was amazed to see that we sold the place out. And that's 1,100 seats. So that was pretty good. And you know what and it was just a great night. I mean, Joe Conklin just knocked it out of the park as he always does. And the place was really rocking, and everybody was laughing and having a good time. And it just struck me that I kind of felt like everybody there needed to have their spirits lifted. It came right on the heels of this Eagles death spiral. And I think everybody just wanted to have a night where every time they saw the Eagles, it was Wilbert Montgomery, or every time they saw the Eagles, it was Nick Foles pulling in the Philly special. I think everybody was just ready for that. And so when we rolled that out that night on the stage, people responded in a big way.
And I really like that you also did a little addition, the Bernie Perrant tribute, because, Glenn was very tight with him. Everybody who knows Bernie Perrant loved the guy. So you all said a little bit about Bernie, and that was really terrific. Brought some tears to the eyes of a lot of folks in the crowd.
It really was. And we had talked about that because, Joe Conklin does one of his best impersonations is Bernie Perrant. And we kind of talked about how are we going to deal with that now? Because we did the shows last year. Of course, Joe did Bernie, and it was very funny. And we just wondered how appropriate would it be, and would the audience be ready for that? And we kind of thought that, we built into the program a moment where each, Joe, Glenn, and I talked a little bit about our own personal experience with Bernie, and talked about him and acknowledged his place in Philadelphia sports history, which is right up there near the top for sure. So we did that. But when we got into the segment of the show about the Broad Street Bullies, Joe did his Bernie, and the audience really responded to it because it's done in fun, and no one got a bigger kick out of Joe Conklin's impersonation of Bernie than Bernie himself. So it was part of really a great night, and I think all the folks that were there really enjoyed themselves. And then this Monday night, they got a chance to turn on the TV and get sad all over again.
Well, let's talk about that. The Eagles on a 3-game losing streak right now. A.J. Brown had a strange game Monday night in the loss to the Chargers. He did have 6 catches for 100 yards, but 3 crucial drops, including one that turned into an interception, one that could have turned into a touchdown, one that would have been the go-ahead touchdown late in the game. How do you explain that? He's a guy who normally doesn't have a case of the dropsies.
Does not. I mean, he normally pretty much catches everything that comes his way.
Yeah.
And he had, I think it's probably a little bit of a stretch to say there were 3 drops. I mean, the one right at the beginning of the game, I don't really consider that a drop. I mean, it was off his fingertips, but I don't think that was a drop. The one over the middle that went off his hands and turned into an interception, yeah, that's a drop. Yeah. And then the one in the end zone, which could have possibly been a game winner, even though the defender's there and even though the defender kind of gets his arm in, I mean, that's a ball that typically AJ comes down with. And so I considered that a drop. And yeah, I mean, it's very uncharacteristic of him. But the Eagles right now are playing uncharacteristic football, and it's top to bottom. I mean, on Monday night, well, let's go back. 2 games ago, the defense completely collapsed in the game against the Bears.
Yeah.
But then in this game, the defense came back and played extremely well. But the Eagles offense, as it has been most of the year, was very sporadic. And Jalen Hurts had, I can't think of a worse game he's had in his NFL career. Maybe we can go back to college. Maybe the game he got benched in the championship game. But this was as poor a performance as we've seen from him in Philadelphia, and cost him a game. So now here they are, 8-5, and trying to find a way to come home and beat a pretty pathetic Las Vegas Raiders team. But the way the Eagles are playing right now, I don't think anything's a given.
Hey, Ray, there were reports last month from both Diana Rossini and your former TV colleague Derek Gunn about some folks within the Eagles being frustrated about Jalen Hurts regarding, what he's willing and not willing to do with the team's offense. Do you believe that to be the case? And has Hurts regressed this season?
Yeah. The second part of it, yeah, clearly he's regressed. I mean, just watch his play, you see that. And right now he's not any longer the running threat that he once was, which was a very, very big part of his game. There was a time not that long ago when next to Lamar Jackson, he was the biggest running threat at the quarterback position in the entire league. And it was a big part of the Eagles' offensive success. He's just not running the ball anymore. And so you take that part of the offense away, that's significant. And he's right now trying to play the game from the pocket, and he's having trouble. He's having trouble finding receivers. He's having trouble seeing the field. There were many, many instances of that in the game Monday night. And I thought Troy Aikman did a very good job pointing them out. And not in a way where he was being overly critical of Hurts, but I thought from a quarterback standpoint, I thought he did a very good job of explaining the quarterback's responsibilities there in terms of being able to see the whole field, go through his progressions and find the open receiver, and then going back and watching the replay and pointing out, look at this, look, there's, Goddard is open there. Barkley is open there. And I mean, I thought that for people that were just trying to figure out exactly what was going wrong with Jalen Hurts, I thought that Troy Aikman, in a very objective, but I thought very analytical way, I thought pointed it out pretty well during the game.
Ray, there's a possibility Lane Johnson will be back on the field with the Eagles either this week or next, certainly, including this 3-game skid. The Eagles are something like 15-27 over the last decade when Johnson doesn't play. How big would it be to have Johnson back at right tackle?
If he's able to play, I mean, you don't want to put him out there on one leg, but if he's able to go, sure. And you just pointed to it. I mean, the record doesn't lie. When he plays, they win. When he doesn't play, they lose. I mean, it's almost that clear cut. I mean, he's the best right tackle in the league, has been for a decade now, and he's the best right tackle in the history of the franchise when you really look at it. I mean, a few years ago, somebody asked me to do an all-time Eagles team, 11 offense, 11 defense, and some of them were pretty easy. And I thought one of the ones that was pretty easy was the right tackle. I mean, I gave it to Bob Brown, who was the right tackle for this team in the 60s and is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and was certainly one of the most dominant offensive linemen of the 60s, easily. And I figured, well, that's one position that's probably not going to change. I don't see anybody's going to come in here and play right tackle better than Bob Brown. And then they drafted Lane Johnson. And I was just thinking about it. I was just thinking about it like a year ago when this team went to the Super Bowl and won it. If I had to do a do-over on that all-time Eagles team, you know, how many of these guys on this current team, being the championship team, would be on that? And when I got to right tackle, I was looking at him thinking, would I really put Lane Johnson ahead of Bob Brown? And the truth is I would. Yeah. I mean, Lane is just in terms of the way he plays the position, his consistency, his toughness, his durability. I mean, he checks all the boxes, and I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that whenever it is that he retires and he becomes eligible, that he will be a first year ballot guy and go into the Hall of Fame, because he has not given up a sack in 4 years. I mean, that's just crazy. And in this era of pro football, and with some of the edge rushers that you have in this business, real specialists who are super quick off the line and strong and have an array of moves, that you could have an offensive tackle go entire seasons without giving up a sack. It's pretty amazing. And Lane Johnson actually puts years like that back to back. So, yeah, if they can get him back, and again, I'm not in favor of putting him out there if he's not ready to go. Right. But if he's ready to go, I mean, if they're a better team with him on the field, there's no question. Because Fred Johnson, who's playing in his spot, he's a backup, is really what he is. And he's okay, but he's not the dominant player that Lane Johnson is. And also, the Eagles had a formation that they went with where they would bring Fred Johnson in as an extra tight end, which gave them essentially 6 offensive linemen. And they were using that formation with some degree of success before Lane got hurt. Now, when Lane goes out, Fred Johnson has to move over, and you lose that whole part of the playbook. So if you can get Lane Johnson back and get Fred Johnson back playing as that third tight end and giving you a little bit more strength at the line of scrimmage, that would be a good thing too.
Ray, lots of complaints this season about the play calling. We understand that Nick Sirianni did get more involved with the offense last week, planning for the game. There are websites, fire Kevin Patullo, was done. And how much blame does he deserve?
He deserves part of it. One of the things that Sirianni has said repeatedly this season, and he's right about it, is when one part of your team goes that far off the rails, the way this offense has this year, it's never about one guy and it's never about one thing. If it were that, it would be pretty easy to fix. But with the Eagles, it's a lot of different guys on different plays, and it's a lot of different things within the offense. Some of it is the players, execution. Some of it is design of the offense, that's on the coaches. And some of it is the play calling, which is the offensive coordinator. I thought that overall, I mean, could some criticism be directed at Kevin Petullo? Yeah. Has it been overstated and overdone? Yeah. Certainly, vandalizing the guy's house goes way beyond the pale. But I mean, there are plays this year where the play is perfectly fine. You see it when a play comes in, you see what the formation is, you see what the design of the play is, what it's supposed to be. And you think that's a good call for that situation. That's a good call against that defense. And then your offensive guard jumps off sides, or the receiver runs the wrong route, or there's a miscommunication between the quarterback and a receiver. And instead of running it where he's supposed to, he runs it somewhere else, winds up in an incomplete pass, or worse, an interception. I mean, that happened too. And then when people will talk about the game, play calling was terrible. Well, that play wasn't terrible. I mean, it was a good call. If the players execute it properly, it may wind up being a touchdown, but it fails, and then ultimately people start blaming the offensive coordinator. So are there things you can point out about Petullo? Yeah. I think sequencing plays, he's not great at. There's a feeling about this offense that when you're watching a really well-run offense, you really get the feeling, just watching it, you get the feeling that it all fits together. The runs, the passes, the formations, the combinations. The one thing kind of leads to another. One thing sets up another that sets up another. A certain formation and a certain run sets up a play action pass off of that results in a big play. It all becomes sort of this interwoven kind of tapestry of football that you can't really see the seams in it. It all just works together. And there's I guess just a sequence and consistency and a rhythm to that that's very easy to see, and it's one of the things that makes really good offenses effective. The Eagles haven't had that at all this year. You get the feeling it's a play here and a play there, but there's nothing that seems to tie it all together. There's just no coherence to it, and that's kind of what's lacking. Now, I thought it did look different on Monday night. I thought that was clear that I think Sirianni did have more input. They introduced a couple different formations, a couple different looks. They brought in a few different routes. The overall pass design, I thought, was better. Didn't result in a win. I thought they ran the ball better. In fact, I thought one of my criticisms coming away from it was I didn't think they ran it enough. It seemed like the offensive line was playing one of its better games, not like last year, but better. And Barkley was getting some traction for the first time this year. And I thought in the fourth quarter, they got away from him way too much and relied on throwing the football. And ultimately, it proved to be one of the big reasons why they lost the game, in my opinion.
Hey, Ray, let's talk about the defense. They, of course, missed Jalen Carter. He was out Monday night. He's been banged up lately. I thought Byron Young stepped in and played really well. Jalix Hunt has come on pretty well of late. Nakobe Dean has been very good. He made a couple of poor plays the other night, but he also made some good plays. I think the defense is pretty solid, despite what happened in the second half of the Dallas game and the Bears game. By and large, I think this defense is good enough to, help them make a deep postseason run. Do you agree?
I don't know about how deep a run, because I just think the offense is. Well,
yeah, you need the offense to step it up.
Yeah, I just don't think the offense can win you a big game in the postseason. I just don't see that. But the defense, yes, has played extremely well. The Bears game, you look back at it, you give up 280 yards on the ground. That's not good. But you look at it from the other side, that defense kept you in that game. That game was 10-9. Late. I mean, that defense kept you in it for a very long time. Gave the offense every opportunity to take control of that game. And it's a 10-9 game, and Hunt comes up with a big interception deep in the Bears territory. And the Eagles have an opportunity there to take it down and score a touchdown, get the lead, and maybe take control of that game. You wind up running a tush-push. Hurts gets the ball ripped out of his hands. The Bears get it, take it down the field and score. And at that point, the defense just collapsed, and which I understand. I mean, the defense is just, it's like, how many times do we have to rescue this? You know, how many times are we going to be asked to clean up your mistakes? After that turnover there, I mean, you could just see the defense just kind of, and so a lot of what happened after that. I thought the defense set it up for the offense to, if you could just punch this one in now and get the lead, we can win this game. Not only do they not score, they wind up turning the ball over. And that's kind of been the story of the season. But I thought what you saw on Monday was more representative of what this defense has been all year, which is really good. I mean, you have a game on Monday night where the offense turned the ball over five times, and you still took it to overtime. Now, how often does that happen? That the offense turns the ball over 5 times and it still winds up being an overtime game. I mean, that tells you the defense was coming up with stop after stop after stop that kept you in that game until finally there's the last turnover that ends it. I thought the defense played really, really good. And for the most part this year, I think the defense has played exceptionally well. I think better than their ranking would lead you to believe. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a couple of the guys, and they haven't even gotten a super year out of Jalen Carter, to be honest. Right. I mean, he's missed some time already. Gets kicked out of the first game. He's missed 2 games with injuries. And his play, even when he's played, has been very up and down. But some of the other guys have played extremely well. Phillips has been a big addition as a pass rusher. And Nakobe Dean, when they finally got him back on the field, has been really good and has shown you a new dimension to his game, which is he's a very effective blitzer. They didn't use him blitzing much last year largely because Vic Fangio doesn't particularly like to blitz. I mean, that's just not his way of playing football. But this year he's blitzed more because he felt like he had to in some situations. And one of his key blitzers and one of the guys who's proven to be really good at it is Nakobe Dean. So he's added that to his game, but I think he primarily is still, and will probably remain for most of his career, just a really solid off-the-ball linebacker who's very, very good against the run.
Let me just say this. If the Eagles somehow lose to the Raiders this Sunday, Philly Sports Talk next week is going to be crazy, Ray. Hey, listen, congrats both Tommy and me, year 10, and the latest or the new run of Spinner, your new play, which, I enjoyed. Plus, of course, the greatest moments in Philadelphia sports presentations that you've done. We talked about that already. Is there a chance that any or maybe all 3 of those could be returning at some point in 2026?
Oh, I think there's a pretty good bet on that. I mean, we already the greatest moments in Philly Sports Show that you just saw at Scottish Rites went so well that we've already got some people that are real interested in doing it next year. Glenn and I have already agreed to do a show, a couple of shows next year. We've done the sports movie show, which I think you've come to see a couple times. Yep. And we've gotten a couple theaters that are interested in the next year being the 250th birthday of the country, adapting the sports movies theme to that and having patriotic sports movies night, film clips and excerpts and things from sports movies that ties into the theme of the American birthday. Just an example is one of the ones that came to my mind, and Glenn said, yeah, we're going to get that in there, is in Field of Dreams, that wonderful soliloquy by James Earl Jones when he talks about how the game of baseball has parallels the history of America. Everything that's good about this country you see through the game of baseball. To me, it's one of my favorite parts of Field of Dreams. And that jumped immediately to mind as being part of that. But obviously, Miracle, the story about the U.S. victory over the Soviets at Lake Placid, that'll be part of it, blah, blah, blah. So Glenn and I have already started putting that together, and we're going to be doing that next year a couple of times in a couple of different venues. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing about that.
And Tommy and me will be back, I'm sure.
Tommy and me will probably be back somewhere. I'm almost positive of that. We've had a couple theaters express some interest, but we haven't nailed down the date. And Spinner, my new play that we did at Delaware Theater Company this year, the ice hockey play. We've already gotten the folks at the Players Club of Swarthmore has already expressed an interest in perhaps doing it on their stage next year. So, yeah, I think that there'll be opportunities to see one or all of those things sometime in 2026. And, I look forward to doing it. I mean, those are all fun things to do. And especially when Glenn's a part of it, it's always fun to be back with him again because, we had a wonderful 21-year partnership on radio. Yeah. And when we get an opportunity to reunite and do something on stage again, it really is a lot of fun.
Ray, last thing, we've talked some serious football. We talked about what you've got, coming up with that. You told us in the past your story about your one-on-one interview with Muhammad Ali up at Deer Lake. You told us about your unforgettable Christy Brinkley encounter. You shot her down, Ray. But I need you to tell us one more story. I heard you tell us on the radio many, many years ago. It's cold outside. We have a snowy winter ahead. Please tell our viewers your story about your drive home from Giant Stadium when you had not only some car trouble, but some weather issues to deal with as well. This goes back to my newspaper days. The Eagles played a game up at the old Giant Stadium up at the Meadowlands. And it was a December-ish game, cold, windy, snow, sleet, everything. And being the world's slowest writer, which I was back in the day, I was the last one out of the press box, as I typically was. And I went outside to go to my car and begin the long drive home on the Jersey Turnpike. And I was the last car left in that mammoth parking lot outside Giant Stadium. And as I'm trudging towards it through the snow and the sleet, as I get within sort of shouting distance, I look and I see there's this glistening stuff all around my car. And I thought, well, I guess that's just the snow or the sleet. Then I got close enough to it. And I thought, oh, no, that's glass. And I got to my car and sure enough, some Giants fans or Jets fans, I don't even remember which it was, but the Eagles had won the game. And I guess in a fit of rage, they saw my Pennsylvania license tag and assumed that I was an Eagles fan. And they took it out on my car. And they smashed my entire windshield out of my car. I mean, I'm not talking about like a one little hole. I was talking about I had no windshield. My entire windshield was smashed and in the front seat of my car. Mm-hmm. And so I had to drive all the way home from East Rutherford, exit 16W, all the way back home in a snowstorm with no windshield. And you got to the toll booth and you said you look like Oz or Frosty the Snowman.
This was back in the days when they actually had toll takers. When there actually was a person in the booth, I got off as I said on the radio that day, I remember saying, because Angelo thought it was the funniest thing ever. Oh, yeah. I said, I got out on the turnpike and was driving, and of course the snow was coming in, and just reflexively, I turned on the windshield wipers. And the wipers are going, and I said, that just what I learned that night was that windshield wipers work far better when you have a windshield. But anyway, when I got to the exit to get home in Philadelphia, and I pull off and I go to the toll booth, the guy in the toll booth looked, and there I was sitting alone in the front seat, looking just like Frosty the Snowman. I mean, I was just completely covered in snow and ice. I remember that. I remember that very well. Unfortunately, I've never had that happen again. And now that I'm no longer writing, I get out of the press box a lot earlier now. So I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
Oh, Ray, great story. I love it. Hey, we used up all your time and then some, of course. Eagles Encyclopedia, Champions Edition 2. Any book signings coming up?
There it is. Eagles Encyclopedia, team from day one, 1933. Actually, before that, Frankfurt Yellow Jackets days. All the way through Super Bowl 59 right here. Yes, I got a couple signings coming up. I have one this Saturday at the the Barnes & Noble in Wilmington on Route Concord Pike 202. So come on out for that one. Get a copy of the book. And then the next day, Sunday, I'm doing one at Carl's Cards and Collectibles, a really fine sports card and memorabilia store in Havertown. So we'll be signing copies of the book. And if you're in that area, or even if you're not, come on out and say hi.
All right. Ray, a pleasure as always. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll talk again in the spring, I'm sure.
All right. Merry Christmas to you, too, and tell Bill I wish him a speedy recovery.
Thank you. Take care, Ray.
Take care, Chet.
All right. That was so much fun, as always, with the great Ray Didinger. Hey, speaking of fun, Irish Rover Station House. You know about this place. I love the Irish Rover, and they got some big doings coming up real soon. So let's see what we can tell you about the Irish Rover Station House on Bellevue Avenue. Terrific food, always 24 beers on tap, killer burger Thursdays, dinner specials Thursday through Sunday, live music most weekends. This Saturday, courtesy Oliver Daggum. And yes, coming up on Thursday, the 18th, one of my personal favorite events, it is the Ugly Sweater Holiday Party at the Rover. You know I will be there in all my ugliness, my sweater, that is. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. You can find them on the web at irishroverstationhouse.com.
Hi, this is Angelo Cataldi. You are watching Philly Pressbox Radio starring Bill and Chet. And let me tell you something. These guys know their sports. These guys are the successor to what we did at WIP for many years. So don't miss it.
All right. Thank you, Angelo. Hey, it's time for another great guest. Ray was great. This guy's great. Our second guest has been here several times over the years, mostly to talk Phillies baseball, but he's also written a couple of football books. We will talk about all of it. He's the founder of Phillies Nation, Brian Michael. Hey, Brian, how are you?
What's up, Chad? How you doing?
Good to see you. Hey, we just had Ray Didinger on. You hung out with him this past Sunday, did you not?
We did. I did up at the Frankfurt Historical Society. So he's a tough act to follow, but I'm always happy to follow in his footsteps. I mean, that encyclopedia is the Eagles reference source for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about the Phillies offseason moves with you and what's ahead in a sec. But first, tell me about your new book. I know you're a sports history buff. So for people who don't know, who were the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets and what inspired you to write about them?
Sure. Well, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were Philadelphia's first NFL team. Before the Eagles, we had the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, and they were around from 1899 to 1931. And they were in the NFL from 1923 to the 31 season, 24 to the 31 season. And they won the first NFL championship here in the city as well, 1926. So next year is going to be the 100th anniversary of the Yellow Jackets NFL championship. NFL championship, same as the Eagles, the Bears, the Packers, the Giants. Those were all the teams that the Yellow Jackets were playing back in the 20s and beating. So they were good. The 26th season was especially good. And not a lot of people know about them, unfortunately. Once they folded, the league took back the city's franchise, and that's when Burt Bell took them over and created the Philadelphia Eagles in 1933. But before that, we had the Yellow Jackets. They were a community-based team. They were owned by individual shareholders from the community. So it was a real neighborhood feel to the games. It was up in Frankfurt. They had Yellow Jacket Stadium right at Frankfurt Avenue and Devereaux, and it was a lot of fun. You know, from everything that we researched, it looked like the stadium was overflowing. There was tailgating before and after. They had bands. They had cheerleaders. It was quite the experience. And like I said, they won a lot of games. So it was a lot of fun in Frankfurt while it lasted. It wasn't too long, but it was Phillies football history before the Eagles. But that's how we got involved with the book, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets book. We had a book that we were working on about 5 years ago on the Philadelphia Eagles, and we wanted to include a little bit of football pre-Eagles. So obviously Penn State, Temple football, high school football, Thanksgiving games. but also the Yellow Jackets. So we talked to Ray, of course, and we went up to the Frankfurt Historical Society looking for a handful of photos in our first chapter for our Eagles book. But what we found was a treasure trove of artifacts, memorabilia, photos, photo negatives, game programs, accounting ledgers, meeting notes, everything you can imagine from this Frankfurt Yellow Jackets pro football team. So we kind of filed that away. We finished our Eagles book. That came out in 2022, and we knew we had to come back and get all that stuff, dust it off from the library and get it out to the public. So the Frankfurt Historical Society up in Frankfurt is a great resource. They have a lot of this information. We were happy that they could share it with us. And my co-author, Andrew Weicker, and I were up there researching and putting this book together. So it was a lot of fun. It's not something we kind of thought about doing, but it was there, so we felt compelled to do it.
Where can people find the book?
So you can find it at my shop, Scheib Sports, down on 13th and Walnut, or scheibsports.com. But we also have a companion website for the book itself called frankfurtyellowjacketsbook.com. And we created the website really because we found so much information that wasn't already publicly accessible that we wanted to put it in the book. But eventually our publisher said, you know what, guys, that appendix that you're creating with all the rosters, the managers, the presidents, the game results and schedules was too much to put in a book. So we compiled it for the website. We shared the information with profootballreference.com, which is a great resource, as we all know, and baseballreference.com for NFL stats. But this is helping them in their project to get pre-NFL stats put together. And that was one of the really interesting parts about it, because when we did research for the Eagles book, we could always reference history or Ray's book or the Inquirer. When we're looking for Yellow Jackets history, it's not always there, it's incomplete, and a lot of times it's conflicting. One of the interesting aspects of the Yellow Jackets and all the teams back in the 20s was players would play for two different teams on 2 different days. You might be on a team with a guy and then line up against them the next day. So trying to piece all this together was actually really difficult. And when we found little kernels of information, we knew we had to put it out there. So that's what the website, frankfurtyellowjacketsbook.com, features, as well as a chance to get the book too.
All right. There's the book. Go find it, folks. Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. And right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change our background to Phillies, because we're going to talk a little Phillies with you. The big news, of course, this week, the Kyle Schwarber signing. 5 years, $150 million. Not our money, so no big deal. But is 5 years a concern? I mean, he's going to be 38 that final year.
Probably. I feel like that is the strategy that the Phillies use to get a little bit of an advantage when negotiating in free agency against other teams. It seems like they are more willing to give those extra years. Certainly the years that fans and people like us would say, that might be too many, or we may have to eat that contract in the last couple years. Obviously, I think the Schwarber one certainly maybe 2 years longer than needed or optimal. But same thing with Harper too, right? Most people were offering him 10 years. The Phillies were able to land him with a 13-year deal that stretches the money over that. So in that regard, yes, I think it might be longer than we need, or than he'll be at in his prime. But I think that's what we needed to get it over the edge. Dave Dombrowski, made that. Obviously, he's coming back to a team he's familiar with, and that helps. But as also in 5 years, $30 million for a DH might not seem too crazy, right? Yeah. The way inflation's going nowadays, they're going to be making 40, 45 million by the time this deal's done. So, like you said, it's not our money. It seems like John Middleton has an endless pocket, which is fine with me. It's interesting. Pete Alonso signed today for just slightly more, same amount of years. He's certainly 2 years younger than Schwarber. So, I'm sure that's going to be a big debate. Would people rather have had Alonso or Schwarber? That's tough to say. Both are coming off incredible contract years. I think fans and the team more familiar with Schwarber. He certainly fits that veteran leader role. So I think it's a comfortable, easy choice. And when it's not our money, it's a much easier choice indeed.
There was a report, I think it was Todd Zalecki, said the Phillies did formally make an offer to JT Realmuto. I'm hoping that one's just 2 or at the most 3 years. Do you think JT will be a Philly again?
I do. It seems like with Schwarber, JT, and Thompson, they're going to run it back this year. It was a disappointing end, a good season, but disappointing playoff run. Obviously, they ran into the World Series champion, but that's what it seems like. Yes, I do believe JT Realmuto is coming back. Schwarber texted him right after he signed his deal, and I think Realmuto will be back in town. He's been here for plenty of years. He's got a home here. I think it's the comfortable, easier choice. But like you said, 3 years makes sense. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't surprise me to have a 4th year or some sort of option on the end to kind of seal the deal. But I'm glad things are moving along. Sometimes we have to wait till spring training to get these deals done. Thankfully, they're getting done in the winter meetings. We have reporters down there in Florida covering all of this, which is great to get all the news. But it seems like the big pieces are falling into place. And after that, it'll be, bullpen help mostly.
Hey, you mentioned Rob Thompson, my normal radio partner, Bill Furman, not a big fan of Topper. He calls it insane to, do this, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. So running it back, keeping Thompson for a while. He doesn't like that idea. What is your take on Rob Thompson?
I mean, we all do the same thing over and over again every day, don't we? Right? To an extent. But, it's the comfortable choice, right? Who else is out there? They're already a little bit late in the game if they're going to think they're going to try to flip a new manager this offseason. So, it's not a surprise. Dave Dombrowski mentioned it at a press conference at the end of the season that they wanted to re-sign him, although it wasn't the top of their list, even though they did it quickly last season to extend him. But, I think he's the best who's out there right now. I don't see anyone who's going to really put the Phillies over the top in terms of beating the Dodgers, right? That's more of a talent issue. I don't think Rob Thompson's going to make too much of a difference there. So, I think it's fine. I think the Phillies certainly need some more pieces, some pitching, absolutely bullpen help. I think that's a bigger deal than they may have thought. And that's what we're going with next year. Bill's not wrong to be concerned. No one's happy with how the season ended. Yeah. But when you look at the talent on paper, the Phillies are still one of the top 5 teams in baseball. So, as a GM, as Dave Dombrowski, as president of baseball operations goes, that's what you have to do. So it's up to the players really to play. And the players that they have were the ones that, really need to be stepping it up. Bryce Harper in particular, who had a bit of an off year, I think needs to do better this year. He was a bit in a funk. Obviously, the Wheeler injury didn't help come postseason time either. So, putting those pieces back, I think, are really important. Ranger Suarez would be another big piece then that may or may not fall.
A lot of talk about Aaron Painter over the last couple of years. He had the Tommy John surgery. We thought we would see him perhaps this July, maybe August. Never happened. Is Andrew Painter going to be in the rotation in 2026?
I think so. Yes, I think so. He does in Clearwater, but pre-spring training, he is slotted to be in the back end of that rotation 4 or 5 role. Now that the Phillies are spending so much money, I don't see them being able to pick up some high-priced free agent pitcher. So it will have to be one of these young arms because, like I said, signing Schwarber, signing JT, Nick Castellanos probably won't be back, but they're going to have to pay some of his salary to go to another team. So unless that money is unlimited, yes, I think we're going to need some help from the minor league system. And they've been working on it the past couple of years. So we're really waiting for a breakthrough here or there to come up. So 2026 should be the year for Painter for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully Justin Crawford also in the outfield. But what about Harrison Bader? There seems to be a push lately among some people to maybe reinvestigate Harrison Bader and bring him back, even though he kind of said his goodbyes already a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, he did. And whether or not it's Bader, the Phillies do need help at center field. So that is certainly a position that they need help with. He came at the deadline and made an impact and was a fan favorite as well. So I think signing him to some, low risk, high reward type contract with some incentives certainly would make sense. It's looking more like he's going to return as well, to be honest. So I think there's fewer and fewer options out there. So, yep, Bader most likely will come back. Castellanos, maybe not. Suarez, I could see him maybe not returning either, unfortunately. I know he's a fan favorite too, but, there will be some turnover at least.
Alec Boehm going to be the third baseman again?
That's a good question. Not if I can help it.
Not a Boehm fan, huh?
Yeah, he had a bit of an up and down year, but no, I mean, that's definitely a position they can improve at. Their center field, really need to get more offense from those positions. We don't need another first base / DH person. The Phils are starting to fill up on that position. So, yeah, I could see that. Certainly, I don't know if they're going to make any big splashes at third base. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he's back though too. He's another one we've debated on PhilliesNation.com. Fans mostly want him back. He wasn't as big of a favorite as Schwarber and JT. Certainly wasn't as big of a go as Castellanos, but it was about 60-40 on the votes for people wanting Alec Boehm back.
Christopher Sanchez had a great year, finished second in the Cy Young. Zach Wheeler was, certainly a candidate until his medical issue. What are you hearing about Zach Wheeler? Is he going to be ready for opening day or maybe later in the spring or what?
So far, it sounds like he will be ready for opening day. That was the last I heard after the season. He's been around. He's working out. He's been with the team. He's still in the area. So all things point to Wheeler coming back and hopefully having a strong season. So him, Sanchez, I know you and I talk about Aaron Nola a lot. I think he had a good enough year. That's a good top of the rotation. And like I said, we're running it back, Phillies fans. I hope everyone's ready. Dust off your jerseys because you don't need to get a new one this year.
Well, I don't know what kind of a year Nola had as far as, a good year. He finished stronger than he certainly started the year, and then he had the injury. So hopefully we're going to get the, 2023 Aaron Nola as opposed to the 2025 Aaron Nola.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's a big key. I mean, him and Wheeler, that's a huge difference. As you're 1 and 2 pitchers, obviously Sanchez has pitched his way into ace role, but certainly money-wise, Nola and Wheeler, if they're not doing well, the Phillies aren't doing well. They're not going to win games throughout the year like they did last year and set themselves up for the playoffs. Once the playoffs comes, you need those aces. You need the talent. That's where the playoffs, that's where the talent really shines through. It's in the playoffs. So, being healthy at the end of the year is important. But the Dodgers, they keep stacking players. They sign Edwin Diaz too. So they're not quitting either. They're not resting on their laurels a bit. And it doesn't seem like the Phillies on paper have gotten any better than the World Series champions. So I think I'm not an odds maker, but I would put money on the Dodgers to win again next year.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Check out Brian's website, PhilliesNation.com. Great Phillies stuff on there every single day. And find his football book, Philadelphia's First NFL Team. I just know it's a great read. Brian loves sports history and knows his stuff. So check it out. Brian, thank you. And I'm sure we'll talk again in 2026.
Thanks. Yes, Chet, definitely will. And like I said, 2026 will be the 100th anniversary for the Yellow Jackets. We have a lot of cool things planned. We're going to try to get a blue historical marker put up in Frankfurt, maybe a mural, maybe some other things as well. So look out next year. It'll be a big year for the Yellow Jackets. If you haven't heard about the team, you have now, and it's going to be even bigger next year.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Chet.
All right. Take care. That's Brian Michael of PhilliesNation.com. All right, it is my time right now to tell you about Cav. You know Cav. Cav's Philly tailgates. There they are. Always got it going on. They have a terrific catering business. They've been doing it for 35 years now. You know them best for their tailgate parties. Cav, a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events, parties, you name it. Of course, Cav hosts tailgates before all Eagles games outside the link, and there will be one this coming Sunday, as a matter of fact, before that Eagles-Raiders must-win game for the Eagles. Get details on all events at Cavs' website. That would be phillytailgates.com. And if you do have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. All right, let's move this off the screen, and we are going to talk now about our Pick'em contest. And this is not good news, folks. We all had a very, very rough week 14. A couple of us did poor to awful, and the guy who's not here tonight with the initials BF, he did even awfuler. I know that's not a word, but I believe this is a first. Bill Furman actually went 0-5 last weekend. I kid you not. By the way, I discovered the other day that our total games picked through 14 weeks were 5 fewer than they should have been, and it's because I screwed up. When I was over in Ireland in early October, I never got around to logging our week 5 picks in the cumulative standings. So the good news is it didn't really change the standings as far as who was in first or second or third or how many games behind, because the weekend that I forgot to log was a weekend that all of us went a wonderful 2-3. So the good news is that has been fixed. These standings that I'm going to put up on the screen right now are completely up to date and accurate, I promise. And there's the bad news from last weekend. I went 2-3 and won the week. Boop was 1-4. That's Bob Vitrone Jr. Bill Furman, 0-5. He falls to 7 games back now. Boop is 4 back. Yeah, I'm in first place. I don't know how, because I clearly don't know what I'm doing either. But so be it. Here's what we got going on right now. And I'm going to put our little Philly Pressbox thing up in the corner so it looks official. There you go. All right, this week's picks. I got them all. I got Bill's picks. I got Boop's picks. 5 games. Bills at Patriots. Boop says Josh Allen might just account for 3 touchdowns in New England. 1 if by land and 2 if by air. Okay, Boop. Yeah, Boop is picking the Bills. He likes the Bills. Bill Furman, though, said the Bills are the easy pick, but he is taking the Pats at home. And you know what? I know they're, 1 or 2 point underdogs. I'm taking the Patriots at home as well. We will see if they are for real. Buffalo's a great team. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but they have been kind of shaky in a lot of games. So, yeah, I'm taking the Patriots at home. We'll see if they are for real. Lions at the Rams. Boop is saying LA answered the hiccup against the Panthers in a very resounding way last weekend. His pick is the Rams. Bill says the Rams are flying high. Lions have been inconsistent, so he is picking the Rams. I'm taking the LA Rams as well. Next up, Commanders at the Giants. Boop says 8 NFL teams are 3-10 or worse right now. Or 2 of them have to go with the home team here. That would be the Giants. Bill says both teams stink. He will take the Giants. I'm taking the stinky Giants as well. Vikings at the Cowboys. Cowboys thinking they still have a shot at the NFC East if the Eagles were to falter. And winning this one would go a long way toward that. Boop says the Vikings are the first team to be involved in 28, or is it 26? I can't read his number. 26-plus point shutouts in back-to-back weeks since the 1978 Baltimore Colts opened the season with losses of 38-0 at the Cowboys and 42-0 at home against the Dolphins. It should be noted, though, that the Vikings actually won one of their two over the last couple of weeks. Anyway, Boop's pick is the Cowboys. Bill's pick is the Cowboys. My pick, much as it pains me, is also the Cowboys. All right, that brings us to the final one. That big one at the Link Sunday afternoon. Big one for Eagles fans, because if the Eagles don't win this one, there's going to be hell to pay. Raiders at Eagles. Eagles favored by, I don't know, I think 11.5, 12.5, whatever, something like that. Boop says only the Browns in 1989 have gone longer without a division title than the Raiders and Jets, both in 2002 in those cases. Got to pick the Eagles here. So he did. Bill is picking the Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles. I don't know if they're going to cover a double-digit spread, but Eagles will win this one, right? Right? Please? I hope so. So to recap all of that, Bill and I have the exact same 5 picks, which kind of scares me after what Bill's done lately. 2-8 over the last 2 weekends from Bill. We have the Patriots, Rams, Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles. Boop has one different. Boop is taking the Bills over the Patriots. As for our margin of victory pool, well, last weekend, we all picked the same game, the same winner, and it was the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they ended up losing to the Saints. So we all got an L. We all got 0 points, which means the standings haven't changed. Boop is in first place by 33 over me, and by 46, if my math is correct, over Bill. So that does not change. And as I look at it, it ain't going to change this week either, because all of us have gone the same route this week. We are all taking the 49ers to beat the awful Tennessee Titans. That is our margin of victory pool pick. The Niners. So hopefully the Niners at least won't let us down this weekend. There you have it. All right. What else can we talk about? Oh, next week's guest. Next week is going to be a good one. I'll see if I can find this guy's picture, because we are going to talk more Eagles football with another guy who knows his stuff when it comes to the Eagles. He is a talented football journalist. He is a senior football writer for The Athletic. Really does a great job with them. It is Zach Berman making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio to help us figure out what sort of postseason future the Eagles might have this time around. Zach Berman on our show next week. Probably no second guest, just Zach and a healthy Bill Furman, we hope, back on the show as well. So looking forward to talking to Zach. A couple other things we can get to real quickly. The college football playoffs. The field of 12 is set. Tulane and James Madison are in. Notre Dame and BYU are out. Oh, my goodness. I know that has caused a lot of concern among Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans. I am not one of those fans, but even I have to admit, Notre Dame should be in here. I mean, having James Madison and Tulane, there's kind of like, when you occasionally get an NFL division winner with a 8-8 or now 8-9 record. They win the division, but they're not going to go real far in the postseason. But it is what it is. So no Notre Dame this year. Tulane and James Madison will get smoked by the 5 and 6 seeds in the opening round. You know that as well. The good news is Penn State. It took a while, but Penn State finally, there's that field of 12 right there, by the way. So Indiana and Ohio State may meet again in the finale if everything goes chalk. As far as Penn State, a new head coach, finally, Matt Campbell. It took a while, but they did get their guy, or one of the guys that they wanted at least. Matt Campbell spent 10 years at Iowa State, and he will be the new head man at Penn State. The good news for a lot of Penn State fans and the players who really liked this guy, Terry Smith. Terry Smith, who was the interim coach, will stay on as associate coach, so that is great to see. That's not what I want. Army Navy coming up this weekend, and the bad news is it is not in Philadelphia. It is at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Bill's not happy about that. He wants it brought back to Philadelphia permanently. All right, we will wrap it up with a couple of birthdays, a couple of guys celebrating birthdays. How about Matvei Michkov celebrated birthday number 21. I think it was on Tuesday. And over the weekend, a legendary Philadelphia Philly. He was a rookie back in the early 70s, and now he's still an advisor, I guess. You see him down in Clearwater all the time, hanging around with the team and helping out, even Trey Turner to this day. The great Larry Bowa turned 80 over the weekend. Always good to see Larry when I am down in Clearwater, a Philadelphia Phillies legend. That's all I got, folks. Let me check the message board. Let's see. Oh, PJ says go Army. Yeah, I would say go Army too. My dad, of course, was in the Army for a few years back in the 1940s. Let's see. PJ says there are changes for next year's NCAA football playoffs. Maybe. Happy birthday, Larry, says Bob Moser. The Eagles need a new offensive coordinator. Well, they need something to change. That's for sure. Good hire for Penn State, says our guy, Kid Camden. He's an Ohio State fan, by the way, but even he knows that is a good hire for Penn State. See you later next week, Danny. Hopefully Bill will be back with us. One last thing. Today is National Lager Day, right? So I'm drinking a tasty Ring the Bell American lager from Conshohocken Brewing. You can't go wrong with this one on National Lager Day. That's it, everybody. Bill, get well. We'll see you next week. And go Phillies, go Sixers, go Flyers. Didn't even get to talk about the Flyers. 9-1-2 or something like that after a loss. Playing some good hockey and moving up in the standings. So way to go. Keep it going, Flyers. That is all I got. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to play an Eagles fight song because Eagles will win this Sunday. Take care, everybody.
Let's do the song. Come on.